What's up, guys? You know, I have a penchant for, rare unreleased albums from our favorite artists that never came out, that sort of thing. So that's totally what I want to talk about today, about a pretty big group. You all know Third Base, their third album that never actually happened, called Ichabod's Cranium, never came out, never finished, but does sort of exist in pieces. So Third Base, of course, is three guys: MC Search, Pete Nice, DJ Daddy Rich. This much you know. They had two albums on Def Jam. The last record they did was in 1992 for a soundtrack for a movie called Gladiator. The song is also called Gladiator. Gladiator was sort of like a pseudo-independent boxing movie. And they had Easy Melby remix on the single, so that's pretty cool. It was their last record. Together, of course, they both went off to do solo careers. MC Search had a couple hit records. Pete Nice didn't really have hit records, but he actually had some pretty nice, kind of cool underground records and did some stuff like the Beat Nuts, and then guys like Cage, who are up and coming, of course, the KMD guys. All that, you know. So Third Base, either you really like them, you're a big fan, or at least begrudgingly admit that they're alright. They did some dope stuff. They had two hot albums. And they're definitely one of the most requested for, why don't you guys do a comeback? Especially since they were both kind of active, at least for a little while, solo, so they were still in the scene, they were still, visible. DJ Daddy Rich stuck with Pete Nice, he was his DJ for his solo album, so all three of the guys were around, and there's always sort of tease, and, they said, oh, you know what, we have beef, but we might get back together again, and who knows, da-da-da-da. So it was always kind of in the air for a long time, until finally Searchlight Records put out this promo cassette sampler right here. So it's called Pass the Mic, Third Base and Stony Rivers. Stony Rivers is another up-and-coming MC who MC Search was managing, sort of like, OC and Nas, except of course he never took off like OC and Nas. His album came out and everything on Searchlight Records, and he had like 2 or 3 singles, and they never, blew up or anything. That was kind of it. So he was one of those Search's proteges, under his wing at the time. So this is a split sampler cassette tape. In other words, you don't hear the full songs, just snippets, but it's got 2 Third Base songs, new Third Base songs. It was in the late 90s. By the way, hosted by Jay Ski and Touchstone. Oddly, they did a thing where they have all the snippets on both sides of the tape, identical, placed through exactly the same, except the host, the DJ introduced them. One is Jay Ski on A side, and the B side is Touchstone doing the exact same material. I don't know why they did that. It must have been some kind of weird contractual thing. But anyway, content-wise, musically, it's all the same. Stony River song, whatever, it's fine. But exciting deal for Third Base fans was you got to hear 2 unheard Third Base songs, brand new. The whole album was coming. Boom, here's a snippet tape. It's on its way. Well, obviously today in 2017, we know it wasn't on its way. It never happened. But, okay, now let's look at the next kind of interesting clue, step, relic, artifact, whatever you want to say. Issue of the source here. Boom, DMX on the cover. Boom, here are the street little mini articles. There's a thing on Fat Joe, there's a thing on Dondi, there's a thing on Supernat and Battling Craig G. And yeah, comeback album by Third Base. And what do they say? It's on their way. They're down with DJ Daddy Rich again. And they're going to be produced by Organized Noise and feature Wyclef Jean. Which is like, okay, some of probably the least desired collaborations I could have thought of off the top of my head. Clearly just the artists who were popular at the time. I don't imagine those things were ever recorded, but interesting that they're at least talking about going that way, trying to get the hype up. That was the January 99 issue. So then, okay, that's pretty much it. Years later, MC Search, he's done the whole White Rapper TV show and a whole bunch of corny stuff that we don't even really care to get into. And he comes out with his long-lost rough version of his second album. In other words, they didn't really finish the full second album, but recorded like 8 or 9 songs with DJ Clips and DJ Riz from the Crooklyn Clan. And this was going to be the second album. They're taking it to Russell Simmons and stuff. They're going to get a bigger budget and then record some more, with bigger name producers, like, I don't know, Organized Noise, it could be, and come out, and record the finished second album. That never happened, but he was releasing that rough version, and for a long time it was online only. In fact, until recently, I thought it was always online only, until I found out, no, there's actually a CD version available. Here it is. Boom. So Many Young Lives Ago, which is named after a fan of his who passed on. It's pretty good. It's interesting. It's definitely very dated, so very super punchline heavy to the point where it gets kind of corny. Certainly Search in another era wouldn't have gone quite so jokey. That kind of hurts them. And there's definitely a low budget feel to production. Sometimes it's nice, but you can tell this is the rough version, and so probably not as good as what a final full version would have been later on down the road. But most interestingly, certainly for any hardcore Search fans, it's worth listening to. And in some ways, maybe it's even better than some of his other stuff. I don't know. It's not amazing. But for most Third Base fans, what's really of interest is the last 3 songs are not from that Search album, but from the long-lost, unreleased Third Base album. Cat's Out the Cradle, Take It Out the Back, and Commute. Actually, it says Out to Bat on here. But if you actually look at the snippet tape, it's called Out the Back. And clearly when you listen to the song, they're saying, take it out the back. Like if you're having a fight, take it out the back, not out to bat. You might think, oh, okay, Pete Nice is a baseball thing. No, Out the Back is the right song. This just gets the song title wrong, which tells you just kind of how low budget and quickly this was thrown together. Like, it's a pretty generic MOD CD. Like, this is the interior. I'm sure this is like just from a template, whatever. But still, whatever, physical copy of the Search and Third Base album. I was excited enough to pick it up. If you're a fan, it's worth getting. What's disappointing is, even with all this, it sort of feels like an MC Search solo project, so sort of featuring Pete Nice. Like, of the 3 songs, the 2 of which, by the way, are the same as the ones from the snippet tape, one of them is an MC Search solo song. Like, it was just going to be a Search solo song for the Third Base album. So, I mean, really, 2 songs with Pete Nice. As far as I can tell, 0 involvement from DJ Daddy Richie. And they always name drop him in the interview saying, oh yeah, he's going to be back with us. But he didn't seem to be involved with any of this stuff musically. Seems like it's just sort of MC Search doing his own thing. Pete Nice is on there, and it's great to hear him again. But, 2 songs is a little underwhelming. But there is one other last piece of the Ichabod's Cranium, which is what the title of the album was going to be, the third base album, yet to go. They actually came out with a single. This is from 2000/2001, produced by a guy named Rich E. Blaze. Production is not amazing. It feels kind of cheap, and budget again. It sort of feels like one of those things like, oh, we don't need to use any samples. We can, make our own thing for free and be cheaper, and we'll save all the money. And so, one of those things, that's what you get. And you heard Kool G Rap's kind of free track for his upcoming album, Return of the Dawn. Like, not any of the songs that are on the album, but that free track for YouTube, kind of cheap kind of sounding beat, which is all right, but not amazing. That's sort of what this is. You'll notice, though, it features DJ Corey Hill, which is just a DJ who does a lot of shout-outs at the beginning of the song, and you could really, the song would be better if you threw him away, but whatever, he's there. And Stony Rivers is doing the hook. But rapping-wise, it is indeed MC Search and Third Base. The first verse, they traded back and forth, so half of it's Search, the second half is Pete Nice, and then the second verse is all Search, and the third verse is all Pete Nice. So this is probably the clearest example of what the album actually would have sounded like had it come out. I mean, it's not produced by Organized Noise and doesn't feature Wyclef Jean, but this was at least, I guess, polished enough that they felt like this should come out on vinyl. This was their single. It was going to represent the upcoming album and everything. As opposed to the other stuff, which was more like rough tracks and stuff. Here you see they got the kind of classic Third Base logo from the early single, and the American flag kind of goes with, the song's called Hail to the Chief, and that's sort of the theme. Lyrically, with the verses, it never comes up. But DJ Corey Hill is sort of saying, like, these guys are sort of running for rap president or something. That's sort of the theme of the song. Like I said, luckily they basically just drop it when you get into the song because it's a little bit corny. And like Corey Hill's participation in general, could have just been thrown out. But just as a song of the 2 guys getting busy over an okay track, it's pretty good. Pete Nice kills it. MC Search sometimes sounds good, sometimes a little bit too jokey. And at one point he says a weird kind of racial thing about hating white women but not being a racist. And, we all know MC Search and his kind of weird racial issues, but whatever. Actually, I was surprised to see that this song was not online, like it's not on YouTube or anything. So this is a song I'm going to play. I'm not going to play the other songs because his Many Young Lives album, including those Third Base tracks, are all over the place online. And if you haven't heard them, it's just because you've deliberately ignored them, or at any rate, you can go find them right now. In fact, I'm sure he has them out legally on his own way and doesn't want people kind of messing with that. But this song's not out at all, so I'm going to play some clips here of Hail to the Chief by Third Base from Ichabod's Cranium that doesn't actually exist and never will.
Yo, what's the deal? It's yours truly, Corey Hill, baby, from the Bean Town to your town. We'd like to welcome you to the National Lyricist Convention, held here in the great state of hip-hop. This presidential debate is being sponsored by Rob.com. Now step into the podium, the Prime Minister Pete Nice, Big Search, your future presidents. Open your ears, you heard? Don't fuck with the reason you put it down in the first place, getting Search face. Love it when they say never heard Third Base, that's gravy. Just maybe before you get Swayze and my squad get crazy, reenact that flick with Jay-Z. When Dame shot that cat in the back, you know the scenario. The point I'm trying to make, you need to stay the fuck up out of videos. The way I focus, I see life from 2 sides. For you, there's either homicide or suicide. I got the Hell's Bells ringing in the stadiums. I'm spitting like fire on Ichabod's Cranium. I'm hailing to the chief in the political prisons. When Biz was on Prism, Slick Willie giving jizzle. And just like the heads getting severed into buckets, looting all your shit and taking all your gold nuggets. I'm standing in a leisure suit outside a social club. Puff a Hoyle Monterey, Havana dub. Watch how we bullies handle squad choke. When we spit, we burn skin off your whole crew. All hell to the street chiefs who burn beat, flipping semen. This campaign is 100 proof. Watch how we bullies handle squad choke. When we spit, we burn skin off hate fake bitches, fake brothers, broke bitches, and broke brothers are perfect for each other. I don't rock ice, I don't drink bottles more than my crib. I could give less than a fuck about the feet on your whip. And if you break off or not, the cop a watch and a link. I got a joke about you after my people touch you for your things. I take flights and ride coach. Fuck my wife, not some roach who thought I was hot when I performed, and I looked like her coach from high school. And yes, I inhaled, and real deep. Yes, naked when I'm asleep. Trust me, you don't wanna.